Hey guys. Okay, let's finish up these presidential and congressional amendments. Okay, we talked about 22nd. Actually, let's review real quick. Okay, 12th Amendment. President and vice president, how they're elected. They're elected differently, so not one gets first place, one gets second place. 17th Amendment, direct election of senators. 20th Amendment, lame duck amendment. It changes the inauguration date from March up to January for both president and congressional terms. 22nd Amendment, two-term limit for the presidents. Again, this is because of George Washington's precedent he set. People can serve up to 10 years. Exactly. Okay, next we're moving on to the 25th Amendment. This is the line of succession. So, president dies, VP takes over. VP dies, Speaker of the House, and so on. Okay, so before this amendment was passed, it sounds like a pretty late one. You know, there's only 27. So why did this not get passed until, towards the end? This seems like a pretty important amendment. Um, so the way that this started was, we all know our guy, William Henry Harrison. He was the one that caught pneumonia when he was giving his inaugural speech, and he died 4 months into his presidency. John Tyler was his vice president. When William Henry Harrison died, John Tyler just stepped up and said, "Okay, I'll do it." And nobody really challenged him, so they said, "Okay, go ahead." And so that was just kind of the precedent, how it worked out. The VP would just step up and take over. It worked out well. Things were going fine. But they wanted to make sure it was set in stone. Things are, you don't really want to leave this kind of stuff up to chance. So, this amendment is necessary in many ways, obviously. We want to keep this line clear. We know who is doing what, who has the power where, but especially when it comes to major events like the State of the Union. So every year the president gives a State of the Union address. I know I've talked about this before, but just to reiterate, um, one member of the cabinet is always hidden somewhere, like hidden in an underground bunker, in a complete other state, like hidden. Because if a terrorist were to come and like blow up the building or something, we have to have somebody that is clearly in line, could take over and be president. Because we know the line of succession starts with the president, goes through the VP, Speaker of the House, President pro tempore of the Senate. So this is the leader of the House, leader of the Senate, under the VP, because we know the VP is the president of the Senate, technically. And then it goes down through the cabinet members, which is here. So VP, Speaker of the House, President pro tempore, and down it goes. Yeah, so we gotta make sure we know what we're doing if something bad happens. The show Designated Survivor, it's about this. So this amendment was proposed after JFK was assassinated, because everybody kind of freaked out, obviously. Everything went into chaos over how the office was going to get switched. There were reports that Lyndon B. Johnson was hurt, and what are we going to do if he is hurt, and who should be president? How do we do this? Who takes the oath? Where does the authority automatically go? Who is going to make these big decisions? Johnson stepped up 2 hours after it happened. He was in the same car that JFK was in. He stepped up, took the oath, said, "I'll do it. I'm president. I don't want there to be any confusion. It's me. Here I am. Give me the Bible. Let me take the oath." Whole thing. So Johnson assumes power, and shortly after that, 25th Amendment starts. Okay, so I want us to watch this video. So the 25th Amendment is, yes, if the president dies, what are we going to do? But it's also, what if the president is incapacitated or, oh, sorry, or he's just not doing a good job?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does carrying a pocket
Okay, let's watch this.
Institution make you cool? If
Yes.
so, I was the coolest kid in high school by a lot. Now, you're probably familiar with the First Amendment. It's free speech and all that, right? And the second, that's guns. But the 25th Amendment to the Constitution? Probably not so much, which makes sense. The 25th Amendment isn't usually one they teach you in your high school American government class. They didn't teach me in my high school American government class. And that's mostly because it's about something that almost never happens. What to do if a president dies or if he loses his ability to do the job. Suddenly, however, the 25th Amendment is hot. It's super hot. On 60 Minutes in mid-February, former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe said he took part in conversations with other Justice Department officials about what cabinet members could be recruited to vote to remove President Donald Trump from office.
Rod raised the issue and discussed it with me in the context of thinking about how many other cabinet officials might support such an effort.
See, there's one part of the 25th Amendment, it's Section 4 for you nerds out there, goes like this, and I quote, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president, end quote. They weren't very brief. Basically, what they're saying is if the VP in the majority of a president's cabinet says he's lost it, they can remove that president from office. It's a drastic measure reserved for only the most drastic of circumstances, like if the president is totally off the rails, declaring a war on, say, mice, which would be a real stomp. We'd crush those mice. But the truth is that the main reason we even have the 25th Amendment isn't because of the off-the-rails scenario. It's because the Constitution, as originally written, was kind of sort of vague about the line of succession if the president bought the farm. Now, the goal of the 25th Amendment, which was introduced into Congress in 1965, coming several years after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, was to codify how a president or a vice president gets replaced. As in, if the president dies, the vice president takes over. Also, if the president resigns his office, the VP would become president, not the acting president. That was to keep the resigned president from rethinking things and trying to regain the top office. So after Kennedy was killed in 1963, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson became president. He then served for more than a year without any vice president. Fun vice president trivia. The vice presidency has been vacant 16 times before the 25th Amendment even existed. Huh? That was fun. Now, everyone thought the amendment was a good idea. It took only 18 months from the bill's introduction into Congress to it becoming an amendment to the Constitution. Now, yes, it's 18 months, but it's pretty amazing when you consider it had to be approved by 3/4 of the U.S. state legislatures, in addition to 2/3 of Congress. It's a lot of people to say yes. Now, the 25th Amendment got some use following the resignation of Vice President Spiro Agnew amid scandal in 1973. Under the 25th, Richard Nixon was required to replace Agnew, rather than wait until the next election to pick a new second in command. Nixon picked Gerald Ford. Now, less than a year later, the 25th Amendment came a-calling for old Tricky Dick Nixon. He resigned before Congress could impeach him over Watergate. You remember that. Because of the 25th Amendment, Gerald Ford became president. Then, well, nothing. Between 1974 and the election of Donald Trump, the 25th Amendment, particularly the part about the cabinet removing a president from office, became mostly the stuff of fiction. And it was the stuff of lots of fiction. There's, of course, Air Force One, when President Harrison Ford is almost removed from office because he is on board a hijacked airplane. Now, the defense secretary goes all 25th Amendment and almost gets himself named president. But Vice President Glenn Close thwarts that plan. Also, on a related note.
Get off my plane.
Now, in the American version of House of Cards, which, sidebar, is really a bad show, the 25th Amendment is invoked not once, not twice, but 3 times. Again, stupid show, relying on terrible plot points. In the most recent season of Homeland, which is a better show, the president is removed from office by Vice President Beau Bridges using the 25th Amendment because allegedly she is overly paranoid about attempts by the Russians to bring her presidency down. which is a little on the nose. Homeland. Now, since Trump's victory and his decidedly unpredictable behavior in office, it has become a thing in liberal circles to call for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. Now, that chatter has gained steam of late, particularly after Donald Trump's rambling declaration of a national emergency on the southern border. Quote, this Trump performance is why people talk about the 25th Amendment, read a piece in the Washington Post. There's another one. Quote, Trump's Rose Garden fiasco was a commercial for the 25th Amendment, blared an Esquire headline. I'll admit I would probably click on that. Now, even Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is getting in on the act.
The 25th Amendment is there for a reason. And if officials believe it's time to invoke it, then that is their independent obligation as part of their faithful service to the Constitution. That's for them to decide.
Now, here's the thing. The Trump presidency is, yes, stranger than fiction in a whole lot of ways, but not in this way. Asked about the 25th Amendment, Vice President Mike Pence said this.
I never heard of it. I never heard any discussion of the 25th Amendment, and frankly, I find any suggestion of it to be absurd.
So it's a no from Pence then. And without Pence, you got nothing, which means the 25th Amendment talk will continue to stay in the realm of fiction. And that is the point. We make New Point episodes twice a week. Check back every Tuesday and Thursday for the latest and greatest in political content.
Okay. So, crazy, right? It brings a whole other side to this amendment. So it's not just if the president were to die, it's if he is, or she, I guess, is seen as unfit. But again, like he said, it has to be a vice president-led action, and the cabinet needs to be standing behind them. I don't know why we're still loading.
If your roof is over 7 years old, you may qualify for a unique metal roofing opportunity. Watch this important message now for
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. My Wi-Fi is the worst of the worst. Okay. Back to this. So, line of succession. Last one we have is the 27th Amendment. This is the amendment that congressional members can determine their own salary. So, this amendment was proposed back when the Bill of Rights was proposed. Originally, Congress was given the power to make their own salaries because, I mean, who else was going to set it? It just really made sense at the time that, Congress is making the rules. They should make their own salaries too. So the amendment to make it so if they give themselves a pay raise, it doesn't go into effect until the next election was proposed with the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights gets passed. We got the whole Federalist, anti-Federalist fight going on. And this one kind of gets pushed to the side. But it was eventually passed. What keeps Congress from giving themselves raises every day, every week, every other year? Well, it's us. We're the reason. Because if we see that Congress is us as constituents, people that vote, constituents means people who vote for these people, we see them just giving themselves pay raises left and right, we're not going to keep voting for them. So Congress has to find a balance if they want to make as much money as possible, but not too much to tip off the American people to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're making way too much money. That kind of thing. It took about 200 years for Congress to pass this amendment. So the way it was refound, again, like I said, it was originally proposed back when the Bill of Rights was proposed. And when that got proposed, that's like a big deal. Bill of Rights, big deal. So this kind of just gets buried through history. Up until like 20-ish years ago, there was a college student that was researching for his government class, and he read about this. So he wrote his big term paper on it, turned it in, gets a C. Okay. This was before it was passed. He spent months and months sending countless letters to congressmen. Like if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, Andy sends letters like all the time to the state saying, "Hey, give us books for a library," and they eventually cave. That's pretty much what happened. He was spending months sending letters to these congressmen. Eventually, it was passed and ratified by all the states, and he got this 27th Amendment passed. About 30 years later, he calls up his school in Texas, and they changed his grade officially to an A. So, redemption. Okay, just some things about Congress. Congress makes about 174,000 a year. This is just your general Congress member. Speaker of the House makes 223,000. Remember, that's the leader of the House. The kind of leader of the Senate, because we know that the vice president is technically the leader of the Senate, but the president pro tempore, 193,000. The majority and minority leaders remember the political parties is a majority, a minority, each has a whip. They make 193,400 as well. And then some benefits for Congress people. Any surviving spouses and family of a lawmaker who has died during the session, during their term, will receive a full year's worth of salary. Lawmakers get free reserved parking at DC airports, and they can reserve multiple seats on flights for free. And lawmakers can also smoke in their offices, which is just kind of crazy. Congress people can also, if they get pulled over in DC, they can say, "Hey, I'm on my way to a session of Congress." The police have to let them go. So, yeah. If you look up here at this cartoon, this is a guy, need bailout. In this economy, everyone makes sacrifices. Help us out. This is Congress with a new pay raise, except for congressmen. So it's just kind of making fun of the fact that Congress people can set their own salaries. Okay, that's all I have for you. You have something due Friday. Oh, the paragraph. You write me a paragraph on which of the amendments you think is most important out of the ones we have talked about. I've gotten some already, which is awesome. And yeah, that's about it. Have a great week.